All right, hey guys, sorry about that. My internet's a little funky right now. This is the monthly Facebook Live here in the month of August 2018 on Willed Fifth Quarter Special. I'm your host and creator of the show. You know me the best, Will Rocky Farrell. That's my little nickname there. I am no longer in Lansing right now. As I mentioned on the next video, I would be back at Illinois State University, and right now I am sitting in my new studio apartment at 400 Kingsley on the beautiful campus of Illinois State University in Normal, Illinois. So it's exciting to be back on here. It's a lot to talk about at this point in the school year for Redbird Nation here. This episode, especially on the Facebook Live, will reach out a lot to them, and we'll still talk some Chicago Bears. You know, they're getting set to play at 8:05 p.m. tonight against the Denver Broncos, so they're in Denver for that one to face off against new acquired quarterback Case Keenum, who's their starter. And I already see Neil Doyle on. My buddy back in Bloomington there works at the radio station out in Clinton. So a shout out already to start the show, Mr. Doyle. Good to see you. My big brother back over in good old Lansing, Illinois, my hometown, Alex Dolinar. You guys have heard him on various episodes before. He is taking some time out of the dentist's office to spend some time with us. So, Alex, welcome. We're going to be talking Redbird volleyball. Hello, Mrs. Scott. Good to see you guys. Say hi to Mr. Scott and everyone else for me, please. This evening, we are talking Redbird preseason sports along with Chicago Bears and, of course, the Chicago White Sox and Chicago Cubs. We can't not talk baseball in this point of the summer. There's a lot of baseball to be talked about. And I'm going to start with something I got a little bit more info on this year because it's still a new season. The Illinois State volleyball team had their first game of the season. Well, quote-unquote, home opener will be, I'm going to mention it twice, the first time here. September 28th is their home opener, but they played an exhibition game today against a hometown team in Illinois, way up north in the beautiful city of Chicago, Illinois, the DePaul Blue Demons, or Blue Devils, sorry. I get the mascots wrong sometimes. The Redbirds won all three sets. So just taking a look here at the box score, the coach had a lot to say. This is just the quote from Shelby Hild, who wrote it on the volleyball article, who got the quote from Coach Johnson. Talked a lot about how the athletes competed and just carrying on the Redbird legacy correctly, and they were just going to try and compete. That's kind of what you would expect to hear. They talked about it. Now, they had a scrimmage game last night. I'm going to get to it when we talk about Illinois State football. I was just at their scrimmage just about a little over an hour ago, not too far from Hancock Stadium, 2 blocks away from there now. So the volleyball scrimmage last night, that was really exciting to be at. You know, go right over to Redbird Arena, see how the team is doing. And they have a lot of new recruits. Just looking at the list I have here, Taylor Lynch is one of their new freshmen. She's from Cedar Falls, Iowa. And to interrupt there, we have a comment from my dad. Dad, I know the IC football coach is not one of your favorite people. We're talking about volleyball first. Coach Leah Johnson. So back to the newcomers here. Taylor Lynch, outside hitter, freshman, 6 foot, from Cedar Falls, Iowa, and Cedar Falls High School. Next on the list, we have Carly Nicholson. She played a little bit in today's exhibition game. We saw all the players out there in the scrimmage last night, which I think is really great because sometimes when you have a regular season game, you know, conference, non-conference, you're not going to see some of these freshmen play a lot. But we got to see that last night in that scrimmage. We got to see, you know, the I call it the 5 pillars of the Redbird volleyball team this year, the senior core strong they have. And that's Courtney Pence, libero, and one of their key setters from Springfield, Illinois, and Springfield High School. And the 2 Lexis, Lexi Varga and Lexi Wallen, who are just a dynamic duo on and off the court there from what we could tell on campus as well. It's just so incredible to see how these student athletes are to fans and just their fellow students. You know, they act like, you know, I'm friends with some of those people, just really great individuals on this team. Just looking at the list right now, Steph Jankowicz coming off an incredible freshman season last year. She was freshman of the year in 2017. Lexi Varga and Lexi Wallen as well were both junior of the year last season in their junior season. So a lot to be excited about. Now, this is Leah Johnson's second year with Illinois State University. She came to the program after Melissa Myers left after 9 seasons before last season for family reasons, and I think that's very respectable. But Coach Johnson coming back, with the second year, she has more of a recruits under her now. Like, that was the thing a lot of people talked about with this Illinois State team last year that did fairly well in competition. They finished with a very solid record, and I'm just going to make sure my numbers are correct here. Sometimes I'll get a number or two wrong here. They finished at a record overall of 22-13, and in conference 13-5. Now, with a lot of the teams, they even talked about it last night too at the scrimmage. The PA announcer Lance was talking about it, how the competition in the Missouri Valley Conference for volleyball is just continuing to improve, which is what we're seeing with the men's basketball program here in Missouri Valley, and just seeing that competition heat up every year is really exciting for the fans and the students especially. It makes it's already fun to go to those games. The team, just a shout out to Coach Johnson, her staff, and the Redbird volleyball team. You guys make it a lot of fun to go to these games. Just watching it as a fan, even that scrimmage last night, the students were enjoying it. The fans, the parents, the local community of Bloomington Normal, they go to these games because of how well you guys not just play, but make it feel like a family environment being there, the Redbird family all together. And just a shout out to Coach Johnson and her team. Please keep that up moving forward. We know you guys are, but just thank you for continuing to do that. For me as a fan especially, and a student on the campus, but for Redbird Nation, that means a lot to us on the fan side of it, seeing what you guys are able to do. And it's just exciting to see. And I'm going to read some of the shout-outs here just to take a quick break there. We have a lot of people already tuning in, and my dad, who is one of the biggest supports, my family, my mom and dad back in Lansing with our lovely dog Luke, continuing to support me through my career and to this point especially. So thank you, Mom and Dad. Redbird alums, love you both very much. And what was I going to say? It's just so cool to see people that are coming on. I know the Bears are coming up at 8, and I already know my 2 closest friends I'm going to call my brothers. I call my brothers. They know that. Kevin and Alex Dolan are tuning in this evening. Kevin, who's going to be a future New Yorker, hopefully doesn't become a Jets and Giants fan, and we're going to have to joke about him on the show here. He says bear down, and Kev, I agree. We're going to be facing the Broncos tonight, so that'll be exciting. Get to see a little more out of Anthony Miller and some of those guys. So we'll, of course, get to that a little later in the show. But please, I'm seeing people leave a few comments already. Please leave your comments on anything I talk about, Redbird volleyball, ISU football, with the Bears and the Sox and Cubs as well. Please leave your thoughts and comments. Now, I'm going to mention this, as I mentioned in the summer. I would mention my next episode stuff on the Facebook Live. I'm going to do it here. He is one of my closest friends that I made on this campus when I started here. He even reached out to me and said, I want to be your mentor and one of your closest friends for a long time. And that really stood out to me a great deal as somebody, trying to help me in my new area of radio when I started. So Steve Rizala will be joining me on episode 16, and I'm going to try to get some interviews maybe from some Redbird players, maybe talk to the SID, see if I can interview with a football player during the season, or a few of the volleyball athletes, or the coach even, just to try and give you guys some more insight on how their season continues to go. And that's what's exciting about the episodes you guys will get to hear this fall. I'm going to be talking professional sports still, but there's no men's basketball, which you guys heard a lot about last year, and women's. That won't be starting for a while. So the next 2 months, collegiate sports, we'll be talking football, volleyball, and for the soccer fans out there, I am going to try and learn some stuff a little more about collegiate soccer this week. And the next episode, 17, I will try and incorporate that. I'm going to try and broaden the topics covered on this show a little more. So just to talk about volleyball here, just looking at their box score from the game, today. And I was in attendance for it with Redbird Nation in the stands there, so I kind of had some insight of my own to see. And there's a player by the name of Kaylee Martin. She's a sophomore transfer student from Sterling, Illinois. She played her first season in collegiate volleyball over at Northern Illinois University. So shout out to Kaylee. Nice to have you come down to Redbird Nation, down a little more from Chicago. So just I've seen a lot of great players on this team so far, like good spikes and kills and aces, what they call them in volleyball there, from like Lexi Varga. Ella Francis is another name, a really good young player for the team. Like consistent, solid play defensively and offensively with this Redbird volleyball team. And they just added another weapon, in my opinion, to their arsenal, and that's Kaylee Martin. This girl was just really getting at the ball at the right time today. DePaul, credit to DePaul's program right now. They have a lot of young players just looking at it. They only have, looks like one senior, two seniors. They have two seniors, like 3 or 4 juniors, and most of their team is freshman, sophomore, which is exciting for them because they have a really young team. They could do a lot moving forward. And I think seeing a more veteran presence Illinois State team face a younger team like that today, just to compare it to baseball a little bit, when we saw the Cubs, getting into what they were doing, they had young and hungry players, they were competitive. That's what I thought about when I saw this DePaul team step on to Redbird, the Collins Court Redbird Arena there against our Redbirds here in Bloomington Normal. It was just really cool to see what a young team like that they looked like very talented young players out there. They put Illinois State to work, and Coach Johnson talked about it last night. She knew that, starting out, they mentioned they're going to have a tough schedule, non-conference and conference. So just seeing how Illinois State handled an exhibition the way they did, like there were some sets, set two especially. Set one was a pretty good amount of back and forth play that you see in competitive volleyball games, but just seeing how Illinois State would battle back, just reading about a little bit of it here. Allie Line had some kills that helped Illinois State keep a 7 lead, and the Redbirds had an advantage. And like I mentioned, Kaylee Martin, she helped start a 7-3 for the Redbirds in that set. And Steph Jankowicz just continues to add to her career assist total here at Illinois State already out of her first year. I mean, last season she would average about 50 to 60 assists a game, and that's just really exciting to see from one of your young players there. And I think it's just really cool to see, what they're doing. And I think that as a fan, just seeing what they did today. Now, of course, like I said, credit to DePaul for what they did, but like a player like Brianna Kipp, we saw her play a small amount last year just because they had a good 3-4 veterans that were seniors last year. Jalen Keene, Megan Bucky's another name right there. So we're seeing a lot of these younger players we would hear about on campus last year getting more of that playing time this year. And just, hearing the introductions last night as well, it sounds like really good personalities were brought in by Coach Leah Johnson to this team. They talked about, even some of the seniors that were talked to first in between the first and second set. They talked about how excited they are for their senior year. All 5 of those seniors started out together as freshmen. So it's really cool to see what they're able to do. A shout out to both Lexi Wallen and Lexi Varga, Jordan Wellis, another good senior on this Illinois State team. Really good with the assists, like I mentioned with Steph Jankowicz. Jordan Wellis is really good when it comes to serving the ball up at the right time, whether it gets him a point or at least close to one towards the end of the set. She's usually the one you can go to for that. Very reliable. And Allie Line's another great senior. When you talked about Jalen Keene last year, Allie Line was that next one, not to use a pun on her name there, but in line with those senior girls that are now seniors. So that's just – it was just so cool to hear how they started out together like that, and they're continuing that with the younger players. They're passing it on to these younger girls like Steph Jankowicz, Sydney Holt, that are now sophomores that started together last year, along with Kendall Meyer, who I think is going to be a really strong player for Illinois State, especially the way she serves it. I remember last year in her freshman year, she just served it way far back from where the line was compared to excuse me, where a lot of players will be when they serve the ball. And just seeing now Illinois State's fans aren't going to get to see that continued home play right now until September 28th. And I'm going to pull up the schedule here just to keep you guys up to date. After this exhibition, Illinois State heads beginning on August 24th, so right towards the end of the first week of classes for these girls. They'll be heading for a 3-game road series in the Benson Invitational, August 24th, 25th, and 2 games on the 25th, actually. 9 a.m. on Saturday and 6:30. Wow, those are some interesting times for volleyball games. Very early in Athens, Georgia. Then they head for the Top Dog Challenge, where they face Eastern Illinois, Auburn, and Butler in Indianapolis, Illinois. Then they head for a 3-game series called the Cougar Challenge, September 7th and 8th in Washington. Then they head to Milwaukee against Marquette. And then the time they come back into Illinois for some games in conference play, they start on the road September 21st. So I'll keep covering that more. Just that was so you guys could have an updated schedule there. So just some more talk I could add about this team. It's just really, really incredible to see what they're able to do. And I know I just said that, but when you look at the statistics that these girls put up, I mean, one girl that I think I know she's a great player, but she didn't get as much playing time sometimes last year as she wanted in certain game situations as a veteran, and she got more of that today. She's a senior. She deserves that respect. She's played a lot, I've noticed, for Illinois State, but in some games I feel like last year she could have played a little more in situations, but I'm not the coach. I'm a fan, so that's kind of putting me in I'm going to have that opinion as a fan. All fans do. But Lexi Varga played really good today in certain situations. Like I mentioned with new player Kaylee Martin here, Lexi Varga just had some incredible spikes in that first set that sent shockwaves to the Redbird fans in the stands. It was really exciting. I know I was talking to one of my professors I had for an ag class in the spring. He goes to a lot of the games. He's a retired professor, Dr. Terry Tudor, and he was talking to me. He was sitting next to me in the same row as me, and we're talking about how exciting some of those spikes are to see. And you're seeing that from a senior too, which is even more incredible because these young players we had that transferred into the program and became freshmen here, like Taylor Lynch. They're going to get excited about that. These veterans are teaching these youngsters the game of Illinois State volleyball, how it should be, and, just how to do it moving forward. So just to look, I'm going to go over the scores towards the end here. We're going to get into a brief recap of Illinois State football from what I thought in seeing the scrimmage. And my dad asks about Bears talk. Yes, I'm going to be answering these comments pretty soon and getting the Bears talk. We still have a bit of show left. I'm going to go the next half hour at this point. I'm going to probably go till 7. So just looking at the scores here, the Illinois State Redbirds, the big stat of the match was Steph Jankowicz had 5 of Illinois State's 7 service aces against the Blue Demons. And as I mentioned, they opened up their regular season on the road in a 3-game series in Georgia that begins next Friday, August 24th. Some of the key players for Illinois State today that have been mentioned in the media: Allie Line, Steph Jankowicz, Lexi Varga, Kaylee Martin, the new sophomore transfer from Illinois State, senior Courtney Pence, Brianna Kipp, and Marissa Stockman, another freshman for the Redbirds. So I'm going to try and pull up the box score here if I could find it. Got to find where this box score is. Okay. I hope they let me pull up the box score. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Now I can pull up the box score. Got a little technology there. So just looking at the numbers, there were like close differentials in the final scoring of the set. So like 25-22 and 25-19. And like I mentioned, the closeness you see of a younger team like DePaul playing that against Illinois State, it's incredible. So a shout out to Lexi Varga, a good friend of mine. Good play today. Keep that up moving forward. And the rest of the team as well, the volleyball team at Illinois State and Coach Lee Johnson, keep up the great work. A great way to start this season. Exhibition or no regular season game. It didn't matter what that was today. You guys played your best, and credit to the Illinois State volleyball team. And as I mentioned, they'll be on a 3-game road series starting next Friday and Saturday in Athens, Georgia. We here at Will's Fifth Quarter Special look forward to continuing to cover the Illinois State volleyball season, which I believe will be a great year for them again this year as last year was. So we're going to keep continuing to cover their season moving forward. Now going into a brief touch on of Illinois State football. They had their red and white scrimmage today on the campus, and it's kind of what you expected to see. Just, the first team playing offense playing the first team defense. Jake Colby had a few decent plays, threw a few picks here and there like he usually does. Any quarterback will make mistakes, but I compared him to like a Jake Cutler type player. But the next game that we'll be talking about next week when Steve Rosado joins me, we're going to be covering a little more coming up to it, because the first game for Illinois State, the home opener, is against St. Xavier University on September 1st. So when that comes up, we'll cover that. But just to mention, Illinois State had their red and white scrimmage following the volleyball game at Redbird Arena. The Fan Fest they had as well was really exciting, just to see the coaches and the players. I got to talk to Dan Moore a little bit, and just to wish the coaches and the players moving forward. So now we're going to get into the topic that's coming up tonight at 8:05 p.m. It is the tip-off in Denver, Colorado, the Chicago Bears preseason game. Now, to first get to some of my comments from loyal listeners, I got to scroll up here a little bit. I'm seeing Cubs stink, go Brew Crew. I agree, Brew Crew better than the Cubs right now. That NL Central is real tight. And my dad's making a question about fantasy football. I'm actually doing a fantasy football league as well. The title's still work in progress. I'm calling it the Fifth Quarter Special League. Alex Stoner, I wish you would have stayed in there. I know you're busy in the fall, but you still have a chance to come back to the league if you want. Kevin Schreiber is joining me on here. My dad's having an interesting conversation with my buddies that are 2 houses down, so that's a little interesting. Kevin Schreiber from good old Lance Poe Works is on this evening. So, Mr. Schreiber, my buddy on the potholes, Kevin, thanks for joining me. Hope things are good over at Lansing Public Works. Zach Hill, my old high school classmate over at Thornton Fractional South, has joined the podcast. I know you're a big Denver Broncos fan, Zach, so give me some comments about the Chicago Bears, maybe what you want to see them do to when they face the Denver Broncos. I want to hear some of your insight on this. I think Denver's a really good team, and there's a new Bear suiting up. Now, he's been with the team, but not actually with the team. We talked about this on the last podcast episode. It was a real interesting situation for the Chicago Bears and young GM Ryan Pace in his, I believe, 4th to 5th year with the Bears now. It's 5th year as the general manager, doing an incredible job, in my opinion. Put this team back on the map at this point, through that rebuild process. Roquan Smith, he was the first-round pick out of the University of Georgia. And, Alex, this is going to answer your question. I do not believe they will play Roquan too much tonight. I talked about it with you and Kevin a little bit when I was home before coming to campus, that they said he's worked out, on his own. A lot of the well-respected media officials, I know David Haw and Mark Grody are two of them that talked about it quite a bit with the Chicago Bears, covering training camp and everything, that Roquan Smith worked out on his own, which I think is very respectable. That's a good sign, saying it's mostly the agents, as my dad suggested it was, that were causing this rift situation between Bears. Now, I'm sure Roquan had a bit of, insight to some of those decisions or the talk. We don't know what the talk was, of course, because it was behind the scenes, but just to see what, the media talked about with it, and it's good to see Roquan officially sign with the team, though. We could tell right when he was drafted the type of guy he was just by, I know, one interview, but just seeing what an individual, what he stands for. I can't wait to see him play his first game in Bears blue and orange. And to answer Alex's question, I don't think he's going to play too much tonight. I think he'll play a little bit. They're going to probably want to see how he's going to fit with guys like Leonard Floyd, Kwiatkowski, Bryce Callahan, who's a very underrated cornerback the last few years, in my opinion, for the Bears. Kyle Fuller, who's having a really good preseason. This Bears defense is doing really good this preseason. Let's hope that continues in the regular season. And I think Roquan Smith is going to add a lot to that. So I'm going to read a little bit off. I pulled up an interesting article on the Bears website. It was done by their Bears senior writer, Larry Mayer, just to quote him. A very well done article, Mr. Mayer. He highlights 4 things we could look for in this game. It's the 3rd preseason game of 5, as we know the first Bears preseason game was the Hall of Fame game, where I'm going to give him a shout out here. Brian Urlacher, you're one of my favorite Chicago Bears, along with my favorite kick returner in the NFL will always be Devin Hester, good old number 23. That was the Hall of Fame game, and that was really cool to see as a football fan, and I'm sure you guys enjoyed that as well. But they're highlighting 4 things here that's really eye-opening. And they're saying, after a brief and uneventful appearance in last week's preseason loss to the Bengals, Mr. Mayer quotes, will the Bears' number 1 offense begin to build some momentum? Because what he's touching on, and I think this is really smart. It made me think a bit about this after the last week's game as well, when we played the Bengals. We didn't see a lot from the offense because Jordan Howard and Allen Robinson, who's recovering from his ACL injury he had last season with his former team, the Jaguars in Jacksonville, Taylor Gabriel, they didn't suit up. And we saw Tariq Cohen only play 1 snap. We saw a lot from the younger players, the role players and the train camp players that were brought in. And a question they are asking as well, after that first one, Matt Nagy kind of was quoted on this. It says, you want to score touchdowns, you want to be able to put points on the board. He wants to see first downs, and that's a really big thing the Bears had issues with last year. You know, you can convert the 2nd and 3rd down as much as you want, but in my opinion, if you can't convert a first down consistently on at least a good series or 2 in a game, whoever you're playing, whether it's the New England Patriots or the Cleveland Browns, you need to be able to do that effectively. You know, as an offense, if the Bears are, and we see they're trying to get back in maybe the wild card or the playoffs this year, next year, the way it's looking. That's kind of more my timetable is for them and their postseason hopes moving forward as well with this better improved team. Matt Nagy's trying to get a groove for this offense still. You know, fans are going to want to see, we are on these new star players. We want them to play. But you don't want to even have them suit up much in the preseason because these are some of your stars. Jordan Howard is starting running back. Tariq Cohen's one of your backup running back and one of your main slot receivers around Taylor Gabriel as well. And Robinson's recovering from an injury. You don't want to see these guys play too much in the preseason because they can get injured even more. And we've seen that with a lot of players right now. And it's not something you want to see happen because when your star free agent you bring in or maybe a star player can get hurt in the preseason, and you can easily just play your role players more in the preseason to see what you have. And that's what the Bears are doing right now. I think Matt Nagy's offense, we're going to see more of it in the regular season. What I mean by that is we're going to see how it shines more, with those pieces. Fans are, of course, going to want to see those new shiny Lamborghini style of talent players that the Bears have now in that offense. But I think it's good that they're waiting. They aren't playing Mr. Trubisky too much, but the reason they're playing him a little bit more is because he's getting used to this offense. Matt Nagy's style, getting better under center, as they talked about too, like he had improved on last year, which he did. That's what they're stressing right now, and I think that's really important. And just looking at the defense right now, Danny Trevathan actually made an Mayer quoted this as well. Mr. Mayer, he talked about how fellow inside linebacker Danny Trevathan, who the Bears brought in just a few years ago, he's playing his former team tonight, the Denver Broncos. So that's pretty cool. I always like seeing a former player, maybe that one of my favorite Chicago teams let go or they brought in, play his former team or new team against his former team. It's really cool to see, that situation. It's really neat. And they're talking about, Danny Trevathan being a veteran, he's talking about how well Roquan Smith fit in. That just goes with what I was saying before a bit ago, that Roquan's going to have that personality, of course, but it's going to take Bears fans a little longer than they expected or Roquan expected to trust them because, of the situation he was in. Now, he wasn't getting suspended or anything like with Ezekiel Elliott last year, but he had this situation, and he has to show Bears fans, okay, I can not only just play as good as you saw me in Georgia and at the NFL level here for the Chicago Bears and Soldier Field and on the road day in and day out wearing Bears blue and orange, but I can be a player fans can depend on not just as a player, but as a person. And I think that's what Ryan Pace, the Bears front office, and new coach Matt Nagy and his staff do really well with this team. They hold their players accountable, and I'm going to agree with one of their Floats quoted saying here. They're excited to see their new defensive teammate and what he could do. And I think this is something too. Denver's defense was really good back when Trevathan was there a few years ago. They have Malik Jackson, who's now with the Jaguars as well. The Jaguars just added a lot of pieces the last few years because they were in that situation, of course. But the offense, the Bears' offense is facing a Denver team that has had in the last few years, and yes, I'm quoting fantasy because those rankings are based on real stats, one of the top 5 defenses throughout the year in the National Football League. So tonight, what I'm going to think about too, not just wanting to see these offensive players we haven't seen much of yet, seeing our real confidence, but the big question for me, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. You guys are going to have probably, and I'm just going to give you guys comments here. You guys have very varied but interesting perspectives, which is why, I started this show. One of the main reasons to hear those. And I want to see how this Bears offense under a new head coach that's a big offensive mind, a quarterback that's learning this newer style and still growing in his second year with new offensive pieces, an improved O-line that's still getting its chemistry together with some of their new additions like James Daniels and Kyle Long coming back healthy too, which is good. How they face this top defense tonight. Now, of course, being preseason, we're going to see a lot of those backups too, but this is a strong Denver Broncos team that's always been defensively strong, even when they had Peyton Manning and that offense was good. They had defensive, strong-based play in Denver. And it's always exciting to see football over there in the Mile High City, as they call it. I'm excited to see what this Bears team is going to do tonight. And a player I think is really going to be one for me to watch. Now, of course, I think Allen Robinson's going to be as talented as he has before, even after this ACL injury. Just credit the trainers there. But Trey Burton, he was a Super Bowl champion with the Eagles, and he's faced teams like them before when he was with the Eagles, in the postseason and different situations as well. And because the Eagles played the Broncos quite a bit more than the Bears did last year. So he's a very smart player, as we've seen before. He's really good with the quarterbacks he's played with. And he was in that situation in Philadelphia last year when Carson Wentz got injured. He got really used to his new quarterback. He adjusted so well to Nick Foles. That famous play where Trey Burton's throwing that touchdown in the end zone at the Super Bowl, that's just because of their team chemistry they developed there. And I think Trey Burton's bringing that not just to Matt Nagy's growing offense in his new tenure as a head coach for the Bears, but he's helping Mitch Trubisky. These players wanted to come here not just to play under Matt Nagy, but with Mitch. And I think this offense is going to be one Bears fans could really enjoy. It's going to put the memories of last season's offense and the year prior, even before Mitch Trubisky, when we were still stuck with Jay Cutler and like Jason Campbell 5-6 years ago. This is going to be a team Bears fans could be proud of, I think. If we get 7 or let's say we get 9 wins, I think this is still a team people can be proud of. And that's what I'm hoping to see tonight. And in next week's episode, we'll be recapping that. And I'm going to intro. A lot of podcasts might do this on their own setup. We are going to start talking fantasy football. I want to start talking a little fantasy sports maybe on the side sometimes too. If you guys like that idea, please leave that in the comment section because I know my dad asked about it. So I know people do fantasy football. Some of the people that follow this show I'm in a league with, so I don't want to give them my secrets or anything, but I think, and I'm just going to read some of these here. They're talking about U of I. My buddy Alex that's tuned in went to U of I. My baby sister, Emily Farrow, is going to U of I tomorrow, the start as a freshman, so shout out to her. But just to read some of these comments, and there's a good amount. It's Illinois State is greater than MSU, Michigan State. I'm going to have to agree with Alex there. I'm sorry, Kev, but Redbird Nation. Russia every time, no tampering. Alex, when I get to the baseball talk here, I'm going to comment on your baseball one there. I see your comments, so that'll be commented in a little bit. Jake Laconi has also joined, my old classmate Thomas Subsinski from 4th grade. I haven't seen him in a long time, so Hello to you, Thomas. ILLINI, which is the chant I guess U of I students do. It's not as cool as the Redbird one, REDBIRDS, Redbird Nation, and Reggie's Roller Coaster. They don't have Reggie Redbird, so they don't have the Chief at U of I either, Alex. So I don't know how U of I can top Illinois State's great Reggie Nation mascot set up there. I have to agree with this though. And my dad even quoted it. I guess he probably knew I was going to mention this. He knows me well. Denver's tough D. Denver's going to have a tough D. And Alex is talking about another offensive player. We talk about Trey Burton just because of what he's done. You know, he's a top tight end, one of the top tight ends in that top 10 list in the league right now coming into the season. Baby Gronk, the nickname of Bears' second-round pick when they got Mitch, Adam Shaheen is another one to think about. And he had a really good preseason game last week. I believe he got about 70 yards total, just to round the number up there. He had about 65 yards passing, and they're giving him more playing time. I think he's going to fit really well in this offense because Trey Burton can't just only play offensively well. You see tight ends, how they can block real well and stuff. Really good tight ends can block. They're good blockers. And we saw that with O.J. Howard when he went to the Bucs in Tampa Bay for that one of those reasons. They wanted to use him as a blocker because of his size and his playing ability. And Trey Burton's going to be able to fit in a lot of different positions, which will give Ham Shaheen, in my opinion, a good supporting offensive role in here. We might even see two tight end setups, kind of like the Patriots used to feature back with Aaron Hernandez and Big Rob Gronkowski. And I think Mitch won't throw any picks. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to agree with Alex and Mrs. Dorn, who is new to the podcast, showing up on here. So I appreciate that. And one of my classmates, Caitlin, I'm going to pronounce the name correctly, Palakadis is tuning in back on the campus. So a lot to be excited for the Chicago Bears. As I mentioned, they will be facing the Denver Broncos on the road in the Mile High City for their third preseason game of the year. Just to touch on some of their upcoming preseason games here, they will be facing two more teams, and the regular season will be a very exciting one. They will be facing the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field on the road. And that's going to be really exciting for Bears fans to see. Whenever you see them playing there, it's interesting. And interesting enough, I think you guys are going to really like this. The next preseason game, a week from today, next Saturday at noon, the Chicago Bears will be hosting at Soldier Field for their fourth preseason game of 5, Matt Nagy's former team that he coached at as an offensive coordinator, the Kansas City Chiefs. So he will be facing his old Superior coach that he worked under, Andy Reid. So we're going to get to see Andy Reid like a student versus teacher type thing, or former student versus former teacher type thing with that matchup. That's going to be a really exciting one. I think that's going to be next week's preseason game, and we're going to obviously preview that next week in episode 16. It's going to be really exciting to see. And then that final preseason game will be against the Buffalo Bills. But as I mentioned, tonight's game will be very exciting, and I'm going to call you guys out here. You guys are leaving great comments as usual on the Facebook Lives. I love that so much. It gives me so much more to talk about like right now. Even influencing some of the great ideas I had before too, which is great. And I want to hear some comments. I'm going to try and maybe make a poll after tonight's game. Maybe what players you thought stood out the most, looking at like final stats. And I'm going to make a poll on Twitter. I'm going to share it on the Facebook page, my Facebook page as well, and on the Instagram. And I want to see what you guys have to say about it. There's going to be different opinions, I'm sure, but please head to the Twitter page on the podcast, or just leave a message on my personal Facebook wall, and tell me what you thought about the Bears game tonight when you watch it, or when you see the highlights, whatever you see of the game tonight, and just tell me what you think about the game, what you expected more of, what you're expecting to see from the Bears, and just leave your insight, and we will – any comments that are posted on the Twitter, the Facebook, the Instagram, anywhere pertaining to the podcast, even on leaving a comment on this video, you guys can after I post it to my page when this video finishes this evening. I will feature those topics on the Bears segment next week that I do with Steve Rizala. And that's just credit to you guys. I want you guys to be even more part of the show, supporting-wise, just bring your ideas to the episodes so you guys can feel more connected to the show. And I'm going to look at some of the comments here. An interesting one by my father, Brian Farlow. Will the Bears cut Kevin White? That's a really good question. I have to think it's going to be a little bit slimmer that they don't from last year because Matt Nagy sees confidence in his new receiver. And we'll find out tonight. Hopefully Kevin White will get some more passes. He got a few good passes last week from what I heard. So, as I mentioned, the Chicago Bears will be kicking off in less than an hour, 8:05 Central Time. They're on the road tonight in the Mile High City in Denver, Colorado, facing the Denver Broncos' solid defense and offense, led by new quarterback Case Keenum, formerly of the Minnesota Vikings. Also, thank you to Patrick Sheard, Monica Mendoza, new editor-in-chief over at the Vidette on Illinois State University's campus. So congratulations to you once again, Monica, for that. Can't wait to see some of the great things you do in your leadership role this semester. My buddy Mikey Phillips and my cousin Patrick Dillon joining the show as well. And a special shout-out. I gave a shout-out to this guy, this little guy on the episode formerly done when I talked about the Eagles a little bit in my movie moment. That was the movie Invincible. Hope you guys have seen that one. And if you haven't, I actually met somebody that has never seen Rudy before. I was at the Redbird football scrimmage, and there was a newer student sitting by me. They're asking me, if I went here a long time. I said, yeah, I'm a senior. And they were asking me about the team a little bit. And they said they liked Notre Dame. And I said, okay, have you seen Rudy before? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, doing something like that, hitting your head on the table almost type situation. It's a classic football movie, and that gave me the idea to feature a scene from that movie in a future sports movie moment. No one's used that movie yet, so I'm going to try and use it pretty soon. It's football season starting more in professional and collegiate sports, so that's something to look forward to moving forward. But an interesting thing I found out today that I thought you guys as sports fans would really find eye-opening. So now we're going to finish it out tonight. Not too long because I know you guys got to watch the Bears game. Some fun Saturday night stuff going on here. We're going to talk White Sox and Cubs baseball. Now, just to go into the Chicago White Sox here, they are currently in action. The White Sox are currently sitting at a record of 45-76 on the year, right about third or fourth place in their division over in the AL Central. They are facing the division rival, the dreaded team Sox fans never like to see in their stadium or facing their Sox, the Kansas City Royals, led by well-known manager in Major League Baseball, Ned Yost. They are currently in the bottom of the third at Guaranteed Rate Field, where the White Sox have a runner on second in 2 outs, leading 1-0. Kansas City sits at a record of 37-85 on the year as they are starting their team's rebuild. So just looking at the game right now, I'm going to pull up the box score here just to give you guys some updated stats on this matchup if you're tuning into the game. Whit Merrifield is 1 for 2 for the Kansas City Royals. He is the lone hit tonight for Kansas City. And the White Sox ended the third inning just now. Kansas City's pitching must have gotten them out. And the pitcher, Mr. Keller, 3 strikeouts. Has given up 2 hits, 1 run that is earned, and 3 innings pitched for the Royals. Now going over to the Southsiders, the home team tonight. Yoan Moncada leading off tonight after he was featured 7th and 8th spot, not being able to hit too well. They're talking about how the Sox are one of the top teams in the league right now in strikeouts. They might break an all-time record, which rebuilding teams, things will happen. We saw it with the Cubs. The Sox are having that happen. They have really great hitters up with this team and more that are coming up. So that's going to happen in a rebuild. Some of your top hitters that will come up with the few hitters that you have long-term, like Jose Abreu, Tim Anderson, Nicky Delmonico, Daniel Palka is a really great player that came out of nowhere this year from AAA with the Sox. I think he's a really great home run hitter. I think a good long-term DH if Jake Burger, after that injury he just had earlier in the spring training, takes a little time. That's a good player to have right there. And Yoan Moncada, Yolmer Sanchez. You're waiting for guys like Zach Collins, Eloy Jimenez, Luis Robert, Casey Gillespie's another one. Gavin Sheets was a round 2 pick below Jake Berger, and new pick first round Nick Madrigal is now up a single A this year at this point in the last month. You're waiting for these hitters to come up. So that's a big question I know a lot of you guys are thinking about as well as I am here as I speak to you on this Facebook Live. Why does this strikeout rate keep happening? Things happen to rebuild, so that's my quick, I like to keep it short and simple sometimes, as they say, answer to the situation. And we're going to be covering that a lot next week, too, on the episode. We're going to have a lot of insight. Steve Rizal, who's a big Cubs fan, like my buddy Alex Stolinar there, my big brother, Alex, they're going to probably bring some insight to that, too. They're going to probably – I think something they could mention, too, is how the Cubs had issues as well in their rebuild. With the players that were currently coming up and still getting the hang of things, it's lowering the strikeout rate. And that's how great Cub players that are going to be, I think, in their rafters, when they retire. Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Albert Almora, Kyle Schwarber, and guys like Jason Hayward even there, still improving their hitting as a veteran. These guys lowered their strikeout rate when they came up to the big leagues, and that's why Chris Bryant's able to hit as great as he is, even better. And Anthony Rizzo and Albert Almora and Ian Happ even. These rookies, when they come up, they're not going to hit like your classic Bryce Harper, Mike Trout, or Aaron Judge. They take time to adjust to major league pitching, major league situations, because they were in the minor leagues facing, lower competition and situations. So that's what I think for my Chicago White Sox here. I think they're going to have to continue to try and lower the strikeout rate, maybe find a new hitting coach. I think Steverson's a pretty well-respected hitting coach in my opinion, but if they could find a better hitting coach that works better with these young players, go ahead and do it, I think. I think Ricky Renteria is doing a phenomenal job with his White Sox team. And just some hitting stats here for the White Sox, as I mentioned the stats for the Royals. 1 RBI, a hit, and a run scored. That is Nicky Delmonico. And there was a hit as well by center fielder Adam Engel, who, just to give him a shout-out here to Adam Engel, the center fielder for the Sox right now, that guy can make home run robberies. I was at that Jim Thome game with my dad last week and 2 other games after that. The guy robs 3 home runs in back-to-back games that week. I was at that Yankee game that Monday before, too, against the Yankees. He's robbing home runs. This Sox team is not just having issues with the strikeout rate, but there's a lot of positives. These young players are growing. They're growing in the minors. Your first-round pick you just got a few months ago is already up with the single-A team, while some rookies are still in rookie ball right now and just moving up to, low A ball before single A. The White Sox are in a great position moving forward. I think this is like what we saw with the Chicago Cubs going into next season. Well, just a flashback. This is their 2014 Cubs right now for the Sox. Going into 2015 next year for the Sox, you'll bring in some players, maybe bring a top free agent down the road when free agency comes. We don't know what's going to happen there. We can't predict that right now at this point. We're still in a good season with a good amount of baseball left. So, yes, the White Sox have one of the lower records in baseball, but it's a rebuild. That's what happens when you're rebuilding. You have some of your really good young players of the future up and some of them that are still growing. So, credit to the White Sox and Ricky Renteria as they lead in the top of the 4th now with 2 outs. The Royals, O'Hearn up at the plate against White Sox pitcher Dylan Covey, who has 3 strikeouts on the day. The White Sox lead 1-0. Now to close out the baseball talk for this evening's Facebook Live, it is the Chicago Cubs over on the north side of Chicago on Clark Avenue in beautiful, and yes, it is a very beautiful stadium, Wrigley Field. The Chicago Cubs do not play today, it seems. Actually, they do. I just refreshed it. Got a lot of technology, as I said again. They are losing to the division rival Pittsburgh Pirates as they're playing on the road over at PNC Park. They have Rosario, one of their rookie pitchers that's been up with the team this year, facing the Pittsburgh Pirate hitters. As it's the bottom of the 4th in PNC Park, 2 outs now as Colin Moran, the third baseman for the Pirates, is up at the plate against a 71-50 record Chicago Cubs. Now that's something to talk about too with the Cubs. Their division is a really interesting one. That's been one of the main topics with them, along with their injury situations. And we didn't see that a lot with the Cubs the last few years. They were very healthy. Their players stay consistently well approached at keeping their health manageable and maintained through their success the last 2 years. When they won the World Series in 2016, they stayed healthy really well. Took good care of their bodies and everything, and how they played carefully and correctly, not making too reckless of plays or catches. And they did that last year as well. They're facing key injuries this year. The pitchers we've named on the podcast about it, the pitcher Yu Darvish is still a big question mark right now. I think, in my opinion, I'm not a Cubs fan. The Cub fans would know better than me, even as fellow baseball fans. We never knew Arrieta was gonna, do what he's doing with the Phillies and what would happen with Darvish. That's the risk you take, and not bringing back a pitcher that was great for your organization and a good role, leader type figure that, just he transformed his career with the Cubs. And had I been Theo Epstein, he's an incredible manager, by the way, in my opinion, I would have kept Arrieta. Had they known, like, they had a magical time machine. Now, everyone wishes they had a time machine in sports and cannot have an injury happen, and change things. But you can't do that. It's real life. It's reality. And I think Yu Darvish is going to have to show Cub fans, hey, I can come back and get better, because he's had a lot of setbacks, and he's not able to help this team. Now, they do have a 7-1 period. I think Cole Hamels is doing a pretty good job as a 35, 36-year-old pitcher. He has that experience in this time of the season, postseason. That's why I think the Cubs brought him over especially. And, just looking at the game right here, Zobrist homer for the Cubs, so that's a good one. But in the second, the Pirates just scored 3 runs there. Hechavarria, forming with the Rays with a sacrifice fly, brought in Frazier to score. Ground out from Moran, brought in Cervelli and Frazier to third. And a Frazier double brought in their young first baseman, Josh Bell. So just looking at the division right now in the NL Central, there's 3 teams to continue to focus on moving forward here at this time in the baseball season, as August is closing out, a bit of September baseball, and then getting into the postseason. The teams to watch for in the NL Central, the Chicago Cubs, at a record of 71-50, the Milwaukee Brewers, who have made a lot of moves to try and stay in contention, and the St. Louis Cardinals. So there's a lot to talk about with both baseball teams here. I'm going to cover a lot more of it as well, so I want to just keep reading some more of these comments to close out the show here, as we're at the 52-minute mark. Again, to everyone that's tuned in, commented, joined, thank you so much for the continued support of not just my show, but just taking time out of your Saturday night pretty much to talk to me and to talk sports. And I have a poster I think my next shout-out's going to really like. It's in my apartment here. It is – I'm going to scoot over so you can see it. It's my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies of all time that changed my life, and I hope it's one that can maybe inspire you guys as well to never stop being confident in yourselves and just to keep moving forward. It is Rocky. So that's the poster I have there. I have a nice Bulls poster over here, but this isn't an apartment show. This is a podcast. So I just thought you guys would like to see it. It's technically sports related. My Aunt Kelly tuned on the show, and it's my little brother. I call him my little brother. You can call people that are like family to you, like my buddies Kevin and Alex are my brothers. Donnie Carlson. He's getting ready to start his year of 7th grade pretty soon. So, Donnie, I'm going to give you a shout out here, man. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Love you, little brother. And I miss you. Please give your mom and dad a big hug for me. Tell them I said I miss them. And that I appreciate you being on. I hope you enjoyed the conversations on here. And don't stay up too late, little man. Don't stay up too late, little brother. Love you. So shout out to them over in Plainfield as well, my little brother Donnie and his folks. And Amber Montejano and Alex, who will win? I got to answer this question. I promised. A promise is a promise. I even keep my promises to this. Alex still in our comments, who wins? The Little League World Series champ or the White Sox? It's going to be the White Sox, Alex. They're in Major League Baseball. But I don't know about that Cubs minor league team. That's where Yu Darvish is, and he's injured. But just a bad joke there for the show. So I'm trying to scroll down here a little more. Yes, I agree. I miss you. My dad says, Mom says hi. Hi, Mom. I love you. Thanks for mailing that stuff that you're going to send to me. Mom says hi and thinks that the football coach stinks. I'm not going to say anything about Coach Speck. I think, we had some new coaching staff, and I think a lot of the players have weight on the shoulders connected to how the coaches looked at and perceived. So I'm not going to say he stinks. I think Broxback does a pretty decent job with this team. So shout out to Broxback. And, yeah, go Lovie Smith. He's trying to put some more pieces together with this young U of I team he's got over there in Champaign, Illinois, at a very well put together stadium and Memorial Stadium there on U of I's campus. So just closing out the show, I'm going to comments. Baby Gronk, yeah, we talked about that one. Risk jokes. If you guys don't know, my dad, Kevin Abstonar, who have been part of this show, on the show that you guys have heard, they're great sports insights. Those are three people that have been part of my life from most of its start to now, and some of the people that inspired me to start this show. So just incredible insights moving forward from people like that. Just they're making jokes about Risk. It's a board game, if you guys haven't heard of it, that's all about world domination and the luck of the dice, kind of like a Monopoly, if you guys like that one. And just there's jokes, like a pawn, or when you have an alliance, you have a pawn in it, or a gentleman's agreement where you make an alliance not to go past somebody's area, and they won't go past yours. When you conquer continents, you make a gentleman's agreement to do that, and it's Kevin's rule. I guess he came up. I don't know, Kevin, to this day, why you think that's a rule, but we'll leave it where it is. My friend Jasmine Barnes, formerly of ISU and UPB, is joining, so thank you. Elisa Lynn, the roommate of who I'm going to shout out to next, for thanks for joining. Thank you for joining. I only got to meet you once when I came back last month to campus, but hope things are going well in Milwaukee in your job. And the young woman that inspired me a little bit, she was part of that, and I mentioned this. I work at WZND. You guys know that. I am in an additional role now this semester. You guys will get to hear me, and I encourage you guys to tune into WZND sports calls for Redbird Athletics either way. But I get to call some play-by-plays for Redbird football and Redbird volleyball this year, and get at least one for Redbird men's basketball before I graduate in December. So I'm excited for that. And for this person, I was working some remotes this weekend as a new fellow director at Illinois State, just the Welcome Week events, recruiting kids to join our station, telling them what it's about, just inspiring young people. That's what I want to do with this show. That's what I want to do with my career aspirations in sports broadcast and being in the sports world, in the broadcast and media side. And just this person, and it helped me reflect on this. Even before starting this, I thought about it. This time, 2 years ago, I was a new transfer student. I didn't know what I wanted to join, how my first classes were going to go, which I start my first day of school Monday. It's a little bit of a shock right now to the head, but I'm excited. But anyways, this person is a big reason of why I knew about WZND and how to join and how to be a part of another family. My home family there in Lansing, extended family, they're great, but this is not just my Redbird family, but my second family that'll always have a place in my heart and a place with me. And this young woman's name is Karen Sanders. She was our GM at the station when I started there. She graduated that May, but you helped change my life, Karen. You were part of that, and I just want to thank you. I didn't get a chance to do it in person, of course, because you're in Milwaukee with your roommate. But thank you for what you did. What you did 2 years ago to help get me into point me in the direction of the station is a big reason why I'm even doing this show. Because had I not started there, I might not know about podcasting much and been inspired to start this show. So you're part of the reason I'm speaking to you and everyone else right now. My dad is, my bros, and every one of you has contributed to my career path and future in some manner. And those that aren't even with us, my family, friends, and loved ones, those around me. I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for helping this summer and how I put the show together during the summer to be as great as it was. And it's going to continue in the fall. I'm going to have some fresh insights. My newer coworkers and younger coworkers at the News and Sports Department will be on. I'm going to try and get some more interviews, as I mentioned, from the collegiate sports here. A lot of talk to be had on the show this fall. I'm excited. As I mentioned, episode 16. I haven't set a date for it yet, but follow the social media. I'm going to post it. It will be next week, episode 16 of Will's Fifth Quarter Special, the first fall edition here at Illinois State University in my place at 400 Kingsley. I'm not going to mention the apartment number because I don't want anyone coming here without me knowing. But Steve Rizala, who is one of my mentors in my career path here, one of my closest friends in my life right now, is going to be on. So I'm very excited about that. And you guys can look forward to that. Please, as I mentioned, continue to follow the social media pages. Give your insight on what you think about the Bears, Redbird Sports. And I cannot wait. I was so excited to do this episode with you guys. I had some, new insight that I shared. We get to finally talk some volleyball on here for the first time. And I have decided I probably am going to try and talk soccer next week. It's going to crash and burn a little bit, but it's for you soccer fans out there. I'm going to try and add that in a little bit too. So I didn't do my homework yet, Dad. I start my final first day in my years of education Monday. And a shout out to Marian Catholic. They have a Marian Catholic themed game at the White Sox game. So shout out to Marian Catholic over there. They're a phenomenal band. Not as good as TF South, in my opinion. Go Rebels. But and my favorite White Sox player, alongside my favorites of all time in White Sox history, Paul Konerko. Shout out to him. One of the best players in White Sox history, in my opinion. Chris Sale, Nate Jones, another favorite of mine, and Tim Anderson. He's one of my new favorites with this team moving forward. So they had his bobblehead tonight. I'm going to try and get that on Amazon, hopefully, or get it somewhere pretty soon. Rocky, my dad recognized my nickname. I'm not trying to stall on here too much. It's just I want to make sure I get these comments in as this episode closes. Kate Heather joined. I got to see him the other night at the soccer game, which was cool. Just close out, I got to be part of the halftime show there where you take a wiffle ball bat and you put your head on it and you spin around 7 times in a circle. And I had to kick a ball in it. I competed against somebody to do that, and I didn't win. It was like that close. I haven't played soccer since I was a little kid. That's another story for when I talk soccer on here. I'll share that story. That's a promise. But I have some friends in Redbird Athletics that just a thank you to the volleyball team in attendance and the fans at that game that cheered me on during the halftime contest. Thank you for that support there from the Redbird family. Andrew Weglars just joined towards the end here, so thank you for joining the show on this Facebook Live. And former Illinois State SID, who I got to know well professionally. He works over at Illinois Wesleyan doing an incredible job over there with John Twerk. Matt Wing, thank you for tuning in, Matt. I appreciate that. Hope you and your family are doing well. So this was a little longer than I planned, but there was a lot to talk about, as I mentioned, in the postings before this and that video earlier today. So this is sadly the end of the live for the month of August on Will's Fifth Quarter Special. I look forward to seeing what you guys have to say after tonight's Bears game. There's an IC soccer game tomorrow, so students on the campus right now, go check it out. This soccer team, they're real good. Been the top conference tournaments the last 2 years. So fans, go check out the Redbird soccer, volleyball. I'm actually going on campus to do some fun stuff in a little bit, just activities. Credit to Illinois State for having great activities for students before classes. But this is the end of the monthly Facebook Live in August 2018 of Will's Fifth Quarter Special. The next time you guys will be hearing me is on episode 16, which will be next week, featuring former WZND sports director and current grad student and assistant with Redbird Athletic Ticket Sales, one of my close friends, Steve Rizala. Thank you to all of you listeners near campus here by me or wherever you are. It means so much to me that you continue to support this show, the people that have and will moving forward. That means the world to me. This show is going to continue to grow. I want to make it something big one day, not just for myself and my career and enjoyment of it, but for you, for everyone else. That's why people like Joe Buck and the great broadcasters out there do sports stuff. So sadly, this is the end of Will's Fifth Quarter Special. I love you too, Dad. And thanks for Dominic Sully joining too. As I mentioned, thank you to everyone that joined. Please leave your comments after this video, share it on my Facebook as well. I'm going to make a Twitter poll tonight after the Bears game about what you guys thought to, give your insight. I'm going to leave a question on Facebook too about that, separate from the Twitter poll too, so people that don't use Twitter can start that conversation on the Facebook. So I'm Will Farrell, your host and creator of Will's Fifth Quarter Special. I'll see you next time on the Facebook Lives in September in about a few weeks. I'll do it in a few weeks. I'll see you guys on the airwaves in episode 16. When the fourth quarter buzzer sounds at the end of a sports game, turn to your fifth quarter sports talk. I'm your host, the man you love to hear talking sports on the Saturday evening like tonight, Will Farrell, signing off from 400 Kingsley in beautiful Bloomington Normal, Illinois, on the campus of Illinois State University. Rise and conquer over there, as Rocky says in the bottom of that poster. Life's $1,000,001 shot, so don't waste it, folks. I'm Will Farrell signing off, saying good night from Bloomington Normal, Illinois. You have been watching and listening to Will's Fifth Quarter Special. See you later, guys. Have a good one. Go Bears. Bear down. Bear down.